7. Transport in plants. The flowering plants do not have compact bodies like those of many animals. The leaves and extensive root systems for absorption of mineral ions and water, stems and leaves spread out to obtain the light energy, carbon dioxide, that plants gain from their environment to make organic molecules, such as sugars and amino acids. Transport systems in plants move substances from where they are absorbed or produced, source, to where they are stored or used or stored, sink. 7.1 Structure of transport tissues. The xylem and phloem are distributed differently in roots and stems. In the root, the xylem forms a central column, forming a solid support. The phloem is towards the center, outside the xylem. In the stem, the transport tissues of the xylem and phloem are grouped into vascular bundles. 7.1-1 Diagrams of transverse sections of stem, roots, and leaves of dicotyledonous plants. Roots have root hair cells to increase the surface area for absorption of water and mineral ions from the soil. Water is absorbed by osmosis, mineral ions largely by active transport. Many plants have a mutualism with a soil fungus, a mycorrhiza, that helps absorption. 7.1-2 Distribution of xylem and phloem in transverse sections of stems, roots and leaves of herbaceous dicotyledonous plants. In the roots, xylem and phloem are in the center to withstand stretching forces. In the stems, they are arranged in bundles near the edge to resist compression and bending forces. Lecture Notes for AS Level Biology by Muhammad Rashid Chattha. Cell number 030046100457. They are grouped together into veins and vascular bundles as they pass through leaves. 7.1-3 Xylem vessel elements, phloem, sieve tube elements and companion cells from slides and photomicrographs. Its major components include xylem parenchyma, xylem fibers, tracheids, and xylem vessels. The xylem vessel is one of the two cell types of tracheary elements, the other is the tracheid. These two are the water-conducting elements in vascular plants. Xylem tissues consist of dead, hollow tubular cells that connect to form a continuous conducting pathway. Water and mineral ions pass up the plant in the xylem. The cohesion tension hypothesis explains how water passes up the xylem to the leaves. As water evaporates from the leaves, it creates a tension in the column of water below. Water is cohesive, sticky, so a continuous column can be pulled up from the roots. Fluid in xylem vessels is therefore under negative pressure, so xylem vessels are reinforced by rings of lignin to prevent collapse. In most plants, the stomata close at night to prevent water loss. The mechanism of opening can be summarized as, light photosynthesis ATP potassium pumped into guard cell water follows guard cells get more turgid, bend, pore opens. Most photosynthesis takes place in the leaves. These are the sources of organic molecules, food. Areas of the plant need food are referred to as sinks. Examples of sinks include the growing points, meristems, at the tips of roots and shoots, flowers, fruits and roots. Phloem sieve tubes are primarily composed of two main types of cells, sieve element cells and companion cells. The phloem also contains sclerenchymal and parenchymal cells which fill additional spaces and provide support. Lecture Notes for AS Level Biology by Muhammad Rashid Chattha. Cell number 030046100457. Sieve element cells. Sieve elements are long and narrow cells that are connected together to form the sieve tube. Sieve elements are connected by sieve plates at their transverse ends, which are porous to enable flow between cells. Companion cells provide metabolic support for sieve element cells and facilitate the loading and unloading of materials at source and sink. Possess an enfolding plasma membrane which increases SA, Vol ratio to allow for more material exchange. Have many mitochondria to fuel the active transport of materials between the sieve tube and the source or sink. Contain appropriate transport proteins within the plasma membrane to move materials into or out of the sieve tube. Sieve elements are unable to sustain independent metabolic activity without the support of a companion cell. This is because the sieve element cells have no nuclei and fewer organelles. To maximize flow rate, plasmodesmata exist between sieve elements and companion cells in relatively large numbers. These connect the cytoplasm of the two cells and mediate the symplastic exchange of metabolites. Lecture notes for AS Level Biology by Muhammad Rashid Chattha. Cell number 030046100457. 7.1 to 4 Relation between structure and functions of xylem vessel elements, phloem sieve tube element in companion cells. Relating structure and function in xylem vessel elements table. Lecture notes for AS Level Biology by Muhammad Rashid Chattha. Cell number 030046100457. 7.2 Transport mechanisms. Solute particles can traverse the membrane via three mechanisms: passive, facilitated, and active transport. Some of these transport mechanisms require the input of energy in use of a transmembrane protein, whereas other mechanisms do not incorporate secondary molecules. 7.2 to 1 Some mineral ions and organic compounds can be transported within plants dissolved in water within a plant. How are mineral ions and organic compounds transported? Within a plant, mineral ions and organic compounds are transported by being dissolved in water. The dissolved mineral ions are transported in the xylem tissue and the dissolved organic compounds are transported in the phloem tissue. 7.2 to 2 Transport of water from the soil to the xylem through the apoplast and symplast pathway. Water passes through to the center of the root via two pathways. The symplast, living, pathway consists of movement through cell cytoplasm, while the apoplast, non-living, pathway consists of the spaces between cells and their walls. The endodermis surrounding the vascular bundle contains a Casparian strip that blocks the apoplast pathway. Movement of water from root hairs to xylem. Apoplast pathway, symplast pathway. Water enters the cell wall. Water enters the cytoplasm by osmosis through the partially permeable cell surface membrane. Water moves through the cell wall. Water moves in the sap in the vacuole, through the tonoplast by osmosis. Water may move from cell wall to cell wall through the intercellular spaces. Water may move from cell to cell through the plasmodesmata. Water may move directly from cell wall to cell wall. Water move from cell to cell through adjacent cell surface membranes and cell walls. Lecture notes for AS Level Biology by Muhammad Rashid Chattha. Cell number 030046100457. 7.2 to 3 Transpiration involves the evaporation of water from the internal surfaces of leaves followed by diffusion of water vapors to the atmosphere. Transpiration is the loss of water from the upper surfaces of a leaf. The transpiration stream refers to the passage of water through the plant, from roots to leaves, through the xylem tissue. Throughout the plant, from soil to atmosphere, water travels down a water potential gradient. Water potential is highest in the soil water and lowest in the atmosphere. 7.2 to 4 Hydrogen bonding of water molecules with reference to cohesion and adhesion in plants. Adhesion and cohesion are important water properties that affects how water works everywhere, from plant leaves to your own body. Just remember cohesion, water is attracted to water, and adhesion, water is attracted to other substances. Water and mineral ions, xylem sap, moves up xylem vessels by mass flow. Movement depends on cohesion of water molecules to each other and adhesion of water molecules to the walls of the vessels. Water in the xylem vessels is under tension as a result of loss of water from the leaves by transpiration. Water is therefore pulled up the vessels, a process known as transpirational pull. Cohesion allows for the development of surface tension, the capacity of a substance to withstand being ruptured when placed under tension or stress. This is also why water forms droplets when placed on a dry surface rather than being flattened out by gravity. When a small scrap of paper is placed onto the droplet of water, the paper floats on top of the water droplet even though paper is denser, the mass per unit volume, than the water. Cohesion and surface tension keep the hydrogen bonds of water molecules intact and support the item floating on the top. It's even possible to float a needle on top of a glass of water if it is placed gently without breaking the surface tension. 7.2 to 5 Annotated drawings of transverse sections of leaves from xerophytic plants and their adaptations to reduce the loss of water by transpiration. Lecture notes for AS Level Biology by Muhammad Rashid Chattha. Cell number 03004610-457. Lecture notes for AS Level Biology by Muhammad Rashid Chattha. Cell number 03004610-457. Adaptation of xerophytic plants application. How it works. Swollen stem, e.g. cacti, low surface to volume ratio, acts as a reservoir for water. Leaves reduced to spines, cacti and other succulent plants. Small surface area to reduce water loss, photosynthesis carried out by stem, spines protect stem. Thick cuticle, most xerophytes, waxy layer is impermeable to water, less evaporation. Low growth form. Some plants, even trees, can grow horizontally rather than vertically to avoid the worst of the wind. Leaf rolled inwards, e.g. marram grass. Stomata on inside, humid air trapped inside where it cannot be blown away. Sunken stomata, in pits called crypts, e.g. marram grass. Stomata on inside, humid air trapped inside where it cannot be blown away, humid air is not blown away. Reduced number of stomata, most xerophytes, reduced transpiration. Succulents, deep, fleshy leaves. Leaves store water. Deep root systems allow plant to reach water table that may be many meters below. Many xerophytes have a high root-to-shoot ratio. Hairs, many cacti and marram grass, reduce the air movement around the stomata. Also protects from cold. CAM photosynthesis. Plants open stomata at night, absorb carbon dioxide and store it as an organic acid. Then they close the stomata during the day and use the stored carbon for photosynthesis. C4 photosynthesis makes photosynthesis more efficient by reducing photorespiration, makes more efficient use of carbon dioxide and water. Short the cycles. Plant can grow, flower and make seeds quickly when water is abundant. Dormant seeds can survive the drought. These plants may not show other xerophytic adaptations. Accumulate proline in cell vacuoles. This amino acid lowers the water potential so that more water can be absorbed from soil. Leaves hang vertically, e.g. eucalyptus. Minimizes evaporation and overheating by midday sun. Photosynthesis mainly morning/later afternoon. 7.2 to 6 Assimilates dissolved in water such as sucrose and amino acids from sources to sinks in phloem sieve tubes. Sieve elements have no nuclei and reduced numbers of organelles to maximize space for the translocation of materials. The sieve elements also have thick and rigid cell walls to withstand the hydrostatic pressures which facilitate flow. The fluid in the phloem is rich in sucrose and amino acids. Movement of fluid in phloem occurs from source to sink and is called translocation. In contrast to xylem, this can happen up or down the plant. 7.2 to 7 Translocation by companion cells to phloem sieve tubes with reference to proton pumps and cotransporter proteins. Phloem tissue is living, in contrast to xylem. It consists of two types of cells, sieve tubes that do most of the transporting, and companion cells that control the activities of the sieve tubes. The mechanism of translocation is the mass flow hypothesis, or Munch's theorem. Lecture notes for AS Level Biology by Muhammad Rashid Chattha. Cell number 030046100457. Transport of organic solutes, such as sucrose and amino acids, occurs through living phloem sieve tubes. Phloem sap moves by mass flow from a region known as the sources to a region known as the sink. Sucrose is produced at the source, e.g. photosynthesizing leaves, and used at the sink, e.g. a flower or a storage organ. Mass flow occurs as a result of hydrostatic pressure differences between the source and the sink. Active loading of sucrose into the sieve tubes at the source results in the entry of water by osmosis, creating a high hydrostatic pressure in the sieve tubes. Phloem sap can move in different directions in different sieve tubes. 7.2 to 8 mass flow in phloem sieve tubes down a hydrostatic pressure gradient from source to sink. Mass flow is the movement of dissolved nutrients into a plant as the plant absorbs water for transpiration. The process is responsible for most transport of nitrate, sulfate, calcium and magnesium. Diffusion is the movement of nutrients to the root surface in response to a concentration gradient. When the movement of minerals and water via the xylem is driven mostly by negative pressure and movement via phloem is driven by hydrostatic pressure. This process is called translocation and is accompanied by a process known as phloem loading and unloading. Cells in sugar sources load a sieve tube by osmosis, developing pressure that pushes the sap low. The cells deliver solutes out of the elements of sieve tube and produce opposite effects. The sugar gradient from the source creates pressure flow via the sieve tube towards the sink. Key words: pitometer, root hair cells, sieve plates, sieve tube elements, sinks, plants, sources, plants, suberin, symplastic pathway, translocation, transpiration, water potential, xerophytes, xylem. Chapter Glossary. Pitometer, an apparatus used to measure water uptake from a cut shoot. Root hair cells are specialized cells responsible for the uptake of water and minerals from the soil. They have long hair-like extensions known as root hairs, which are adapted as exchange surfaces. Sieve plates are the perforated end walls of sieve tube elements that allow plant assimilates to flow between cells unimpeded. Lecture notes for AS Level Biology by Muhammad Rashid Chattha. Cell number 030046100457. Sieve tube elements are the main cells of the phloem. They are elongated cells laid end-to-end with sieve plates between. They contain few organelles. Sinks, plants, are the regions of a plant that remove assimilates, e.g. roots, meristem, fruits. Sources, plants, are the regions of a plant that produce assimilates, e.g. leaves, storage organs. Suberin is a waterproof, waxy material that forms the Casparian strip in the endodermis. Symplastic pathway is one of two pathways by which water and minerals move across the root. Water enters the cytoplasm through the plasma membrane and moves between adjacent cells via plasmodesmata. Water diffuses down its water potential gradient by osmosis. Translocation is the bulk movement of organic compounds in plants from sources to sinks via the phloem. Transpiration is water loss from plant leaves and stems via diffusion and evaporation. The rate of transpiration is affected by light, temperature, humidity, air movement and soil. Water availability. Water potential is a measure of the tendency of water molecules to move from one area to another measured in kilopascals, kPa, and given the symbol psi. Xerophytes are plants that are adapted to live and reproduce in dry habitats where water availability is low, e.g. cacti and marram grass. Xylem is non-living, heavily lignified plant transport vessel responsible for the transfer of water and minerals from the roots to the shoots and leaves. Short MCQs with right answers. 1. Some plant species can take up heavy metal contaminants that are dissolved in soil water and then transport them within the plant. Within plant cells, the heavy metals accumulate mainly in the vacuole. Which suggestions about the transport and accumulation of heavy metals are valid? 1. After initial entry into the root, some of the heavy metals can pass through the tonoplast to be stored in the vacuole of cells in the cortex. 2. The heavy metals take an apoplast pathway in xylem, but at the endodermis must take a symplastic pathway. 2. Which descriptions apply to phloem sieve tube elements and to xylem vessel elements? No nucleus. 3. Irrigating crop plants with water containing low concentrations of salt causes an increase in the concentration of salt in the soil. What explains why the increase in salt concentration could eventually kill the crop? Water potential in the soil decreases and direction of water movement out of the roots. 4. 4 students were asked to suggest a set of 4 labels to add to a plan diagram of a transfer section of a dicotyledonous leaf. Which student suggested a correct set of labels? Label 1, lower epidermis, Label 2, phloem, Label 3, spongy mesophyll, and Label 4, palisade mesophyll 5. Which row identifies the tissue that contains the Casparian strip and the molecule forming this strip? Tissue, epidermis, molecule, suberin 6. Some of the features present in transport tissues are listed. Which features are present in xylem vessel elements? Lignified walls and pit 7. Which descriptions of the adaptations of xylem vessel elements to their function are correct? 1. They have pits between vessels allowing water to pass from one vessel to another. 2. They are thickened with lignin to stop them collapsing when the Lecture Notes for AS Level Biology by Muhammad Rashid Chatta. Cell number 03004610457. Column of water is under tension. 3. They form a continuous hollow tube through the plant providing little resistance to water movement. 8. Some fungi cause wilting in crop plants within the xylem vessel elements. Which process will be directly affected by these fungi? Cohesion between water molecules. 9. Which row explains why xylem vessels have no cytoplasm? To contain a larger volume of water, yes. To transport water faster, yes. To increase the cellulose content of the vessel walls, number 10. Which description is correct for xylem vessel elements? Contains elongated cells with end walls broken down, located in vascular bundle in the stem and centrally in the roots. 11. Which force holds water molecules on the surface of cell walls? Adhesion 12. Which feature of xylem vessel element helps adhesion during transpiration? The vessel elements form a narrow tube 13. Which feature of a plant cell is an adaptation for water uptake from the soil solution? Long, thin extension to the cell. 14. Which feature of xylem vessel elements allows them to have reduced resistance to water movement? There are no cross walls between vessel elements. 15. Some of the features present in the transport tissues of plants are listed. Which features are present in sieve tube element? Cytoplasm, mitochondria, and plasmodesmata 16. Which combination of features is correct for a phloem sieve tube element as it unloads into a sink? Water potential, higher than sink, lignified cell wall, absent 17. Which row correctly describes the adaptations of companion cells, phloem sieve tube elements and xylem vessel elements for their roles? Companion cell, many plasmodesmata for communication between cells, phloem sieve tube element, a thin layer of cytoplasm to reduce resistance to flow, xylem vessel element, empty cells allowing water to flow freely 18. What is correct for phloem sieve tube element? Plasmodesmata allow movement of water and solutes across cell walls of phloem sieve tube elements. 19. Some of the features present in transport tissues in plants are listed. Which of these features are present in phloem sieve tube elements? Lignified walls, cytoplasm and plasmodesmata 20. Which features of companion cells are essential to their function? 1. They have a thinner cell wall than a sieve tube element. 2. They contain a nucleus and mitochondria. 21. Which row is correct for sieve tube element? Cell surface membrane, yes. Cytoplasm, yes. Nucleus, no. ADS ribosomes. Number 22. Which parts of plant have plasmodesmata? Companion cells, phloem, sieve tube elements and root hair cells. 23. Which features of these cells make them suitable for their function? Companion cells, numerous mitochondria supply energy, xylem vessel elements, absence of cytoplasm allows mass flow. 24. A region of a plant containing the vascular tissue is treated with the metabolic poison. How will this treatment affect the transport between roots and leaves via xylem and phloem? Xylem, yes. Phloem, no. 25. What is the main function of a companion cell in a phloem tissue? Providing cytoplasmic contact with the sieve tube element for loading. Lecture notes for AS Level Biology by Muhammad Rashid Chatta. Cell number 030046100457. 26. Which features apply to both sieve tube elements and xylem vessel elements? No nucleus. 27. Which plant cells do not contain a nucleus? Sieve tube elements and xylem vessel elements. 28. Which row correctly identifies xylem vessel element and sieve tube element? Xylem vessel elements have no cytoplasm and nucleus, sieve tube elements have cytoplasm but no nucleus. 29. What is the correct route for the movement of water from cell to cell in the apoplast pathway? Through intercellular spaces. 30. Which properties of water molecules are important in the upward flow of water through the xylem? 1. Water molecules are attracted to each other by hydrogen bonding. 2. Water molecules are attracted to cellulose by adhesion. 3. Water molecules have high cohesion in water columns. 31. What contributes to the upward movement of water in a xylem vessel of a plant? 1. Cohesion of water molecules by hydrogen bonding. 2. Adhesion of water molecule to the cellulose walls of xylem vessel by hydrogen bonding. 3. Removal of water from xylem vessels in a leaf reduces the hydrostatic pressure in the xylem. 32. Some of the parts of a plant root involved in water transport are listed. Which sequence shows part of a pathway through which water can move across a root? Cell walls of a cortex cells, endodermal cells, xylem vessels. 33. Which two rows are correct for the movement of water from the soil into a root? Soil root, lower solute concentration, higher solute concentration, higher water potential, lower water potential. 34. Which features have a role in the transport of water in xylem vessel elements? Capillary action, adhesion and hydrogen bonding. 35. What is the correct statement about the movement of substances absorbed by roots? Water passes through the symplastic pathway along a water potential gradient. 36. A number of processes contribute to maintaining a water potential gradient in plants, allowing water to reach the highest parts of a plant. Which processes are responsible for maintaining this water potential gradient? Capillarity, osmosis, and transpiration. 37. What is correct about the apoplastic pathway and symplastic pathway in a root? Apoplastic pathway, water moves across the root through cell wall. Symplastic pathway, water moves from the cell to cell via the plasmodesmata. 38. What causes water to move from the root hair cells to the endodermis? Diffusion through cell walls, osmosis down a water potential gradient in the cytoplasm. 39. What is true about a Casparian strip? Location, cell walls of endodermic cell, formed from suberin effect, closes apoplastic pathway. 40. Which statement correctly describes a transport pathway in plants? The apoplast pathway may be blocked by the Casparian strip. 41. By which process would water rise up through xylem vessel in a plant root when the shoot has been removed? Capillarity and root pressure only. 42. Which of the processes involved in water movement through xylem vessels depends on hydrogen bonding between water molecules? Cohesion. 43. Which properties of water are important for transport in xylem? Cohesion, adhesion, and good solvent properties. 44. Which of these statements correctly describe transport pathways in dicotyledonous plants? The apoplast pathway may be blocked by the Casparian strip. Lecture notes for AS level biology by Mohammad Rashid Chatta. Cell number 030046100457. 45. Measurements of the stem of a young tree showed that the diameter varied slightly. It decreased during the day and increased during the night. Which statement explains these observations? During the day, the tension developed in the moving column of water molecules reduces the pressure inside the xylem vessels so that their walls move inwards. 46. What are features that adapt root hair cells for efficient uptake of mineral ions? 1. A large number of mitochondria. 2. A large number of protein carriers in the cell surface membrane. 3. A large surface area to volume ratio. 47. The statements are description how water moves across the root to the xylem vessel elements. Which statements are correct for both the apoplast pathway and the symplast pathway? Water moves through the cell wall. 48. A maize crop is successfully growing in a field in which the water potential of the soil is 40 kilopascals. What is the most likely water potential of the cell sap in the root hair cell? 60 kPa. 49. Which statements about water movement in plants are correct? 1. Water can pass through cellulose cell walls. 2. Water can pass through lignified cell walls. 3. Water cannot pass through suberin in cell walls. 50. Water that is present inside the root hair cell may leave the cell and pass to the vascular tissue. Through which route must the water travel? Symplast. 51. Which evidence supports the cohesion tension theory for the movement of water in flowering plants? 1. When the rate of transpiration of a tree at the maximum, the diameter of the trunk is at its minimum. 2. Evaporation of water from a porous part can exert a force that draws water up a glass tube attached underneath the pot. 52. What is the role of the Casparian strip? To prevent water moving back into the cortex from the xylem. 53. Which changes in the water potential and the volume of liquid in the phloem occur when carbohydrate is taken out of a root into phloem sieve tubes? Water potential in phloem. Sieve tube becomes less negative, volume of liquid in phloem sieve tubes decreases. 54. Which descriptions of the movement of water through a leaf are correct? 1. Water evaporates into an air space from the higher water potential in the cell wall of a mesophyll cell. 2. Water moves from higher water potential of the cytoplasm of a mesophyll cell to the lower water potential in its cell walls. 3. Water vapor diffuses from an air space, through an open stoma, to the lower humidity of the surrounding air. 55. Which feature of transport in xylem depends on the use of energy? Uptake of ions into the root. 56. How will the root pressure in a plant be affected by waterlogged soil? It will decrease due to a lack of oxygen in the soil. 57. What determines the rate of water movement from the roots to the leaves? Evaporation of water from the mesophyll cell walls. 58. Which properties of water are important for transport in xylem? 1. Water is able to form hydrogen bonds with other water molecules. 2. Water is able to form hydrogen bonds with other polar and nonpolar molecules. 59. Halophytes are plants that can survive in regions where they regularly exposed to seawater. Seawater has a water potential of approximately 2,500 kilopascals. Which adaptation? Lecture notes for AS level biology by Mohammad Rashid Chatta. Cell number 030046100457. Would you expect halophytes to show Root hair cells which accumulate salt and other solutes. 60. Which statements explain why transpiration is an inevitable consequence of gas exchange in plants? Stomata must be open. 61. Which of the following are included in the apoplast pathway? Cell walls. 62. Which statement explains why a stem is cut underwater and connected to a potometer underwater? To prevent air entering xylem vessel elements. 63. A student wanted to find out the rate of transpiration using a potometer. The student was told to work out a value for transpiration using the units mm3, m2, and hour 1. Which measurement would the student need to take? Distance of air bubble moves, radius of the capillary tubing, time and surface area of the leaf. 64. The diameter of a tree trunk usually decreases slightly during the day. Which changes in the environmental factors during the day could cause the diameter to decrease even more? Increased wind speed, increased light intensity, and increased temperature. 65. The diameter of a tree trunk usually decreases slightly during the day and increases slightly at night. Which three environmental factors, if increased, could cause the largest decrease in diameter? Light intensity, temperature, and wind speed. 66. External factors change the rate of transpiration, which also affects the water potential gradient of cells in the leaf. Which combination is correct? External factor changing the rate of transpiration increases relative humidity, water potential gradient in the leaf decreases. 67. What is a definition of transpiration? The loss of water vapor from a plant to its environment by diffusion down a water potential gradient. 68. Which statement concerning transpiration is correct? Water arriving at the spongy mesophyll cells via the symplast pathway must move by osmosis through the cell surface membrane before evaporation from the surface of the cell. 69. A potometer was used to measure the transpiration rate of a leafy shoot. What would be the correct units? cm3, min. 170. Which factors contribute to the increase in transpiration rate when the temperature rises? 1. Concentration of water molecules increases in air spaces due to evaporation. 2. Increased rate of diffusion as water molecules have more kinetic energy. 71. During transpiration, what is the site of evaporation of water in the leaves? Mesophyll cell walls. 72. What is correct definition of the term transpiration? Loss of water vapor from the aerial parts of a plant to the atmosphere. 73. In which combination of environmental conditions are the stomata of a plant most likely to close? Atmospheric humidity, low; soil water potential, low; wind speed, high. 74. Which processes are involved in transpiration? The diffusion of water vapor from stomata, the mass flow of water through the xylem, the evaporation water from the surface of mesophyll cell. 75. Which features of xylem vessel elements helps adhesion during transpiration? The
76. Which features of xylem vessel element allows them to stay open as transpiration increases? Walls of vessel elements contain lignin. 77. What is transpiration and which advantage does it give to a plant? Loss of water vapor from leaves keeps stomata open for gas exchange.
Which statement explains why the circumference, girth, of a tree is less in the middle of the day than at night? Mineral uptake by the root hair cells decreases during the night because root pressure has decreased. 79. When transpiration is at a maximum rate, tree trunk decrease in diameter. Which statement explains this? The water in the xylem vessel is under increased tension. 80. Which xerophytic adaptations reduce the water potential gradient between the leaf surface and atmosphere? Rolled leaves, hairy leaves and sunken stomata. 81. What is the function of the hairs, trichomes, on xerophytic leaves? Trapping a layer of moist air. 82. Which row shows the correct sequence for the movement of sucrose in phloem sieve tubes? Active transport of protons out of the companion cell cytoplasm, cotransport of protons and sucrose into the companion cell cytoplasm, diffusion of sucrose into the sieve tubes. 83. Proton pumps, H+ pumps, and cotransporters are used by plants when loading sucrose into a phloem sieve tube element at a source. Which row is correct? Proton pump pumps protons out of a companion cell into its cell wall. Cotransporter, the high concentration of protons outside a companion cell drives the transport of sucrose into the cell. 84. Sucrose is loaded into phloem sieve tubes from companion cells. What is the correct order of statement that explains this mechanism? Hydrogen ions are pumped out of companion cells by active transport. Hydrogen ions diffuse into companion cells through cotransporter. Protein sucrose is cotransported along with hydrogen ions. Sucrose diffuses into phloem sieve tubes via plasmodesmata. 85. Sucrose moves into an actively dividing shoot tip from a phloem sieve tube element. Which changes to the water potential and the volume of a liquid in the sieve tube element are correct? Water potential becomes less negative and volume of liquid decreases. 86. ATP is used in companion cells to provide the energy for loading a sieve tube element with sucrose. How does the cotransporter mechanism use this energy? To pump hydrogen ions out of the companion cells. 87. Mass flow is the bulk movement of materials from one place to another. Which vessel carries fluid by mass flow? Artery, phloem, sieve tube, vein and xylem vessel. 88. The loading of sucrose into companion cells involves a number of processes. Which process is active? The movement of hydrogen ions out of the cytoplasm of companion cells. 89. Which description of movement in phloem is correct? At a source, sucrose is loaded into a companion cell using a protein that carries both hydrogen ions and sucrose molecules. 90. Which changes occur as carbohydrates move out of a root cell into a phloem sieve tube? Water potential in a phloem sieve tube becomes more negative and volume of liquid in phloem sieve tube increases. 91. Which row shows the cause of mass flow in the phloem and the direction of movement of phloem sap by mass flow? Cause of mass flow in the phloem, hydrostatic pressure. Gradient, direction of movement of phloem sap by mass flow, source to sink. 92. Which describes possible mechanism by which sucrose is transferred from a mesophyll cell into a companion cell? Cotransport by passive diffusion of hydrogen ions. Lecture notes for AS Level Biology by Muhammad Rashid Chatta. Cell number 030046100457. 93. Which statement supports the theory of active loading of sucrose into companion cells? The pH decreases in the cell wall of the companion cells compared to the cytoplasm. 94. Which processes occur in the vascular tissue in leaves and in roots? In leaves, sucrose enters phloem by active transport and the water potential becomes more negative. In roots, sucrose is used or polymerized and the water potential becomes less how negative. 95. Does sucrose move from chloroplasts to the phloem? Apoplast pathway and symplast pathway. 96. Different substances, such as sucrose and amino acids, can move in different directions in the phloem sieve tubes. Which statement explains this? Mass flow occurs in different directions in different phloem sieve tubes at the same time. 97. Which row is correct? Needs energy from ATP, translocation, transfers heat energy, transpiration, carries assimilates, phloem sieve tube elements. 98. which statement explains why sucrose rather than glucose is transported by phloem? Sucrose is non-reducing sugar, so is less reactive. Transpiration is the consequence of which feature of plants? The requirement for leaves to exchange gases. 99. Which statement explains how mass flow arises in sieve tube elements? Sucrose actively loaded into sieve tube elements decreases the water potential, causing the hydrostatic pressure to increase. 100. Water that is present inside a root hair cell may leave the cell and pass to the xylem. Through which pathway must the water travel? Simplest 101. Which features of xerophytes are adaptations to reduce water loss by transpiration? Rolled leaves, yes. Fleshy leaves, yes. Sunken stomata, yes. Thick waxy cuticles, yes. 102. In constructing a plan diagram of a transverse section of a dicotyledonous leaf, which feature should not be included? Chloroplasts in the palisade mesophyll layer. 103. Which processes are involved in transpiration? 1. The diffusion of water vapor from stomata. 2. The mass flow of water through the xylem. 3. The evaporation of water from spongy mesophyll cells. 4. The evaporation of water vapors from exposed leaves. 104. 4 solutions with different water potential are listed. Which list has the solution in order from the highest, least negative, water potential to the lowest, most negative, water potential? Soil water solution, root hair cell solution, endodermal cell solution in a xylem vessel. 105. Which feature of a root hair cell is not adaptation for water uptake from the soil solution? Large numbers of mitochondria. Mitochondria. 106. Which organelles occur in large numbers in companion cells in phloem? Mitochondria. 107. What is responsible for the movement of water up xylem vessels in plants? Decreasing water potential at the top of the xylem vessels, with cohesion of water in the vessels. 108. How is sucrose transported into companion cells and then into phloem sieve tubes? Transport into companion cell by active transport against a concentration gradient and transport into sieve tubes through plasmodesmata. Lecture notes for AS Level Biology by Muhammad Rashid Chatta. Cell number 030046100457. 109. A region of a stem of a plant is heated to kill these cells in the living vascular tissues. How will this treatment affect the transport between roots and leaves via xylem and phloem? Xylem, yes. Phloem, number 110. The movement of water through xylem vessel is affected by external factors. A decrease in which external factor would result in an increase in water movement. Atmospheric humidity. Lecture notes for AS Level Biology by Muhammad Rashid Chatta. Cell number 030046100457.